All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Tipple's Wine of the Week virtual wine tasting with Elizabeth and Jeff Beaudre from Tipple's Brews and Wines in Gainesville, Florida. This week, we're going to be heading down to South Africa to try what I think is a really fun wine. This wine is not, it's not delicate, it's not finessed, right? This is a fun wine and one that I'm really anxious to see what everyone thinks of it when we get to the end. It may be polarizing.
Yeah, that's
It
what
may be.
you said. It might be polarizing. So I'm wondering which side I'm going to fall on.
Right. So should be interesting. So Pinotage is the grape. South Africa is the host of the grape, right?
Mhm.
So if you haven't already done so, let's go to the first one before we say that part.
Okay. All right.
Opening slide. So this guy here, a decidedly modern take on Pinotage. This is a very specific style of Pinotage, not just that it's Pinotage.
Okay.
So when we drank the Southern Ripe Pinotage, probably 18 months ago now, as a group, that one I did it because it was like this quintessential expression of classic Pinotage, right? This is not that guy. Okay. This is a modern take on what they could do with Pinotage, right? Okay. It's a winemaker's vision. Okay. Right. So no ratings. Okay. Right. This guy's a kind of a casual purchase level wine, easy to buy, and we'll see if easy to like. All right. Food pairings: pork mole, bacon wrapped portobello mushrooms, eggplant with goat cheese, robust big flavors. That sounds really good, actually. Anything mole, right? That would work with this guy. Okay. It is called a Barista for a reason.
So it tastes like coffee.
Let's see. All right, now let's take this down and go ahead and go back to us, please.
Sorry. I haven't done this in 2 weeks. I'm rusty.
You're rusty. That's right. If you have not already done so, go ahead and crack that cap on your Stelvin enclosure.
I forgot how loud you are when we're in person.
It comes across just great. Have to project to the back of the room.
No, dude, you don't.
Yes,
you're not on stage.
Yeah, you know, this is my stage. So crack it open. I gave this guy a light chill in the refrigerator, about 30 minutes to bring it down to around 60-ish degrees, right? And we talked about the food pairings already, so we'll get right in. This is 100% Pinotage, and the nose is not.
No, the nose smells like coffee.
It smells like coffee, right?
Yeah. I mean,
it smells like coffee and smoked meat. I mean, it is not a it's not a shy nose. It jumps right at everything about this wine jumps out of it.
I was just thinking, I've never smelled a wine that tastes or that smells like this.
Right. I remember the first time the wine brought this into me, this was years ago now, is the barista. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, does this have coffee in it? It does not. This is all Pinotage, 100% Pinotage, alcohol content 13%. Okay.
So Jerry says burnt creosote.
Burnt creosote. Oh, Harriet says burnt creosote.
Oh, sorry, Harriet.
So yeah, that smoky quality on there, and yeah, I think barbecued burnt ends with a coffee, like a ground coffee coating on top. But like I said, there's no shrinking violet.
No. Would you like for me to go to the slide now?
Not yet.
Okay.
Aging potential. Drink within 5 years.
Okay.
So this is meant to be a young consumption wine, right? Not meant to age. Barrel aging on this guy. It's all new oak. This is the first time I've said that ever. All new oak.
Okay.
French oak.
Oh, okay. Because normally when you say new oak, I think of American oak.
Right. Okay. Right. And so if we did all new American oak, you're going to get a ton of vanilla. And this one, you're going to find some on the finish, playing around with some of the fruit and the end. But it, you know, the French oak works a lot more with spice and than it does with big vanilla, right? Some vanilla. All right. So even though it's all new oak, which is going to be the most aggressive, which obviously it needed,
and then Rachel's saying that she tastes berry after.
Oh, yeah, very good. All right, so. Absolutely. So we're going through all that coffee, baker's chocolate, smoke, barbecue, burnt ends, and then you go right into blackberry, black cherry, so there is a plum. There's a significant fruit factor in here. It's not just those other qualities.
Yeah, but I agree with Rachel. It's like I initially taste like all the burnt ends and the, all of that smokiness and coffeeness, and then the berry comes after. We do have a question too.
Okay.
Where does that smoked meat flavor come from?
That comes from the fruit.
Really?
Yeah. That is a quality because it can be like tar.
Oh, that's
this
right.
is an
You said
aggressive,
that
right?
a long time
So
ago.
kind of, I would say more poorly grown Pinotage has a reputation for tasting bad because it tastes like tar.
Okay, this doesn't taste like tar.
Right. No, it's not, right? They were able to kind of tame this into a smoky quality, which is the thing with the Pinotage and Carmenere, right? Those are my two grapes. They're not related, but they have this thing where if they're poorly grown, they taste terrible.
Okay.
Right. But if they're well grown, you get to take that, like with Carmenere, you end up with this ridiculous bell pepper quality. But well grown, it becomes a smoky quality, which I like the smoky quality in the wine. And the same thing with Pinotage. Poorly grown, you end up with just cranberries and tar. But better grown, you can play with the smoky qualities and bring out what you want. But yeah, poorly grown Pinotage is terrible. But I like well-grown Pinotage, or even in this case, kind of almost a playfully grown Pinotage.
So what I heard from that is if you don't have someone advising you, don't buy Pinotage. That's what I heard. I'm not buying blind.
It could be hit and miss. But they're getting so much better at their craft down there with Pinotage, which we'll get into. It's getting much more hit than miss with what makes it across the pond.
Okay.
It's a big pond to send it across. It better be decent, right?
Yeah.
So,
and then the Hogs said that after having it open 5 to 10 minutes, they felt like the taste improved.
Oh, I can see that. Well, there's a lot going on here. So some of it's going to blow off and moderate and relax with what we're getting. Tannins on this guy. What are you guys thinking? So particularly tannic?
I'm not getting a lot of tannins.
Fairly velvety, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's got a nice, it's about medium weight on the wine itself, medium bodied. And tannins would be medium low, I would say. So,
I feel like I am getting like a tang on my tongue, like not when I initially drink, but when, like the after effect is kind of like a tanginess.
Sure, I can go with that because it does have some dark fruit coming in, but you're right. The finish is much more of a tangy cherry, like a tart cherry. There is acid in here, which is another really good thing, which is why if you picture having this with some of those big meals, those big hearty, flavorful food pairings we talked about, or just throw it into barbecue. It's an amazing barbecue wine.
Sure.
That acid would play with the fats in the meat, and it would all make it work that much more deliciously.
That much more better.
That much more better.
That much better.
That much better. There it is.
I was just gonna let you struggle with it for a while.
Well, you
See
did.
where we went from
You
there.
nailed it. All right. So we've gone through that. Let's take a look. We'll go back and look at the label.
Okay.
So this guy. All right. So we have Barista very dominantly on the label. So Barista, there's the winemaking, the winemaker, right? 2020 Pinotage, South Africa in general. All right. So we don't see a sub area. It just says South Africa.
Right.
So that could mean it's from all over the place. Or in this case, because I know better, it's actually just crosses a border. So it can't be called either one.
Okay.
So it comes from this very dominant production area for Pinotage. It's broken into two AVAs, and not AVAs, that would be an American, two viticultural areas, right? But it's also called the Western Cape. So it is a Western Cape wine, but that is the combination of two viticultural areas. So in the end, all they can call it is South Africa.
They can't call it Western Cape.
They haven't officially created that as a designation in their
okay.
country.
So they
So-
could maybe in the description, but they couldn't have it as like an identifier.
Right, well, they have it on here, wine of
Do they?
origin, Western Cape.
Okay.
That's not an official designation,
Mhm.
but it is an effective
Yeah,
designation.
at least narrows it down for just
Right.
a novice reading the back. of it.
Yeah,
Although again, I'm just gonna Pinotage unless I have expert advice.
right. Well, and they give the description on the back, and they've a burst of intense, rich coffee and chocolate aromas, ripe nuances of
Okay.
mulberry, plum, and maraschino cherries. Like they put it out. It is like they tell you what it
It's
is.
describing.
And this
what the-
wine is designed to be this way. It didn't just happen. So we'll talk about that a bit after on too, so in later. So I'd look at this and be like, okay, with the price point, which we're talking about. Where are we 20-ish bucks, like just under, I believe.
Mhm.
So kind of a casual drinker, intriguing, Pinotage, coffee. Hey, I like coffee, it's not telling me all, it's not telling me estate fruit
Mhm.
in that kind of a thing. So I would take it in that price point as, okay, it's explaining what it is to me. If I'm intrigued by those flavors, go for it, right? So there it is. But knowing more, and by the time you guys get done with what I'm going to tell you about this wine, knowing more about this wine really does make it even more interesting. So once again, this is all the experiment, not the experiment, just pretending you're in a wine store that's not Tipple's, where you don't have help.
Right.
But in a store like Tipple's, where I can tell you what I'm about to tell you, I think you'd be much more interested in giving it a shot.
Oh,
But it does
absolutely.
need some additional explanation.
But yeah, although the label does describe exactly what I'm tasting in this glass.
It does. Like, I like the tasting notes being on there and it not being part of a big list of information. And we saw an African swallow go across from northeast to southwest on that first day. And like, look,
Okay.
here's what it
sometimes I
tastes like.
Stories though.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, that like having the tasting notes, and not having to search for it. I like their checkerboard label too at the top. Would you like me to?
Yes, please.
All right.
All right. So Pinotage. What is Pinotage? It is a South African creation. It is the national grape of South Africa.
Okay.
Right. It is the child of Pinot Noir and Cinsault. Created in 1925.
Right. I was just wondering where it said that. Created in, is it hidden behind the picture?
It's hidden behind the picture
Okay.
because I changed font and because this was an old one,
Okay. Okay.
and then it took up more room and I didn't notice that.
All right.
I think it's the only mistake.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll be looking.
So actually, look, it's pretty dark, but then again, it comes from a dark parent. So don't forget Pinot Noir, though a Pinot Noir is a more delicate red grape. Its name means black pine cone, right? So they're known for very dark looking grapes. They're just not particularly thick skinned. Now, Cinsault is known for being very robust in production and easy to get a lot of grapes.
Okay.
The reason this was made was to try to create a red grape that was delicate like Pinot Noir, but you could easily grow in large amounts like Cinsault.
Okay.
1 + 1 = 3. All right. They got a much more intense grape than either one of the parent grapes, which is kind of like Cabernet Sauvignon, right? That was a red grape plus a white grape, and you got a more intense red grape. We have 2 red grapes that created an even more intense red grape.
So, and you said it's like finicky to grow, right?
Pinot Noir is.
Oh, Pinotage is not.
Pinotage is finicky to grow well.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it will grow easily and give you a ton of not very good red wine. Right?
Okay.
And you can take that and make cheap red wine and sell it at $3 a bottle. And, you can do that with Pinotage. So
if you're growing it well, you're not getting as many grapes, which was their whole point in making it, right?
yes,
Okay.
that is correct. And that would explain probably something about the amount of it that's being grown in South Africa, even though it is the national grape. So it is the national grape of South Africa, right? Is it the most grown red grape in South Africa? 9. No, it is not.
Is it Cab?
Cab is number 1. Cab is king.
Yeah.
Cab is king. Number 2, Syrah.
Oh, yeah.
Number
Syrah.
Syrah's great, right? Number 3, Pinotage.
Oh, okay.
Number 4,
Mhm.
Merlot. But the difference between number 3 and number 4 is only 1%. It's only 200 acres. So they're essentially tied for third, fourth, whatever
Yeah.
way you want to go with
Yeah.
that. So, because they do grow Bordeaux varietals really well down in South Africa, but the Pinotage, but I think Pinotage has a lot of work to do in making up its reputation. So when they made it, they discovered, oh, you can make a ton of very cheap red wine
Mhm.
with Pinotage. Not particularly good, but it's cheap, it's red, it makes you feel funny, right? So everyone, okay. And they did that and they ruined the reputation. So everyone thought, well, Pinotage is a garbage grape. It's just for cheap wine, whatever. So now it's kind of having to recover. So in respect to the other guys, I wasn't able to see an updated report to see if it's continuing to gain, because while it's being produced better,
Mhm.
at the same time, you're producing less of it.
Right.
Because you're dropping more grapes and you're going into more specific areas to get the flavor you want.
Sure.
I'm not sure where it's going on there, but I will say this, Pinotage production
Mhm.
is improving overall.
So, it's interesting because I'm thinking we have that same issue with Merlot
Mhm,
and the
Right.
same issue with Zinfandel.
mhm,
And I know there's something else, what, an Italian wine that you
Mhm.
mentioned too. I can't remember which one it was.
It's,
But
Chianti.
Chianti,
Sangiovese,
right.
Yeah.
So, and I always hear you say, but, they're trying to turn around. There are really good ones out there. It just seems to me like all this bad stuff happened with a lot of these grapes, like in the 70s and the 80s. And it feels like the wine industry as a whole is just making everything, like trying to make everything come back up to where maybe it was when we were just having old world wines.
Well, it's actually a little different from that.
Okay.
It is, and
All right.
I get why that would be.
That's
an
my impression,
Right,
yeah.
I totally get why that would be impression.
Mhm.
The flaw in that
Okay.
is that, so you go back and you'd have to go back to the 40s and the 30s, right?
Mhm.
So when you go to because the world wars interrupted everything, right?
Right.
So if you go before that, the thing is, what was popular in the world was sweet wines.
Okay.
So when you got done with the world
Mm-hmm.
wars, all of a sudden the world wanted dry wines. And so you had all these areas producing cheap dry wines for the first time, kind of. And so that's why they floundered around for so
Okay.
long, because they were just now making dry. Before that, it had been all sweet. So,
Okay.
yay, my wine is sweet, pretty easy. Leave a bunch of sugar in it, everyone's happy.
Okay.
And so it was the world wars interruption
Mhm.
and a change in the world demand going to dry wines
Okay.
that really caused them to then have to kind of recalibrate. So then they made a bunch of cheap, dry red.
Yeah, because they were novices at doing it that way.
Right.
Okay. All right.
So that's not all of it, but that is a significant
Yeah.
part of what pushed it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so where are we? On to the next slide, if you please. All right, Pinotage flavors: plum, blackberry, raspberry, red pepper, which I could definitely see the pepperiness. Hoisin, so a little bit of like an Asian spice soy sauce thing. Licorice, not getting it so much in this guy. Sweet tobacco smoke, no doubt. Rubio's tea, not as much in this guy. This one's a little more, kind of overwhelm. Tar, tar can be a thing, right? I've mentioned I prefer when it turns into smoke and bacon, which it has in here. So smoke, bacon, coffee, black cherry, blackberry. It's kind of fun. It is no shrinking violet, and violets are not on the list.
I feel like in the after I've swallowed, I can taste a little pepperiness, but it doesn't taste like red pepper to me. It tastes more like black pepper. Yeah.
Mhm. I agree. So I guess it can be more red peppery.
Okay.
This guy, I agree with you 100%,
Mhm.
black pepper. And by the way, now that mine is open a little more, like Harriet and Jerry were talking about, the tannins have plumped up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I can
feel
go
like the
medium tannin on this guy. Mhm.
I agree.
Which I appreciate.
Okay, so
Hoisin is a great call.
mhm. Okay.
Good dry rub glaze and
And that was
okay,
from Chris.
nice.
Yeah. So if you didn't see, anybody who hasn't seen the chat, Chris was saying that the hoisin was a great call, and he'd agree with that. It reminds him of a good dry rub and glaze on barbecue. And on the back end, some blackberry too, slight brambly quality. Yeah, I can see that.
Right. So I mentioned that over the last 20 years, they've been improving their Pinotage production. And now there's some that really has a combination of power and elegance. Really nicely done. Pinotage is a thing of beauty. Really, I think even like more robustly, like this is going for more of a new world punch. I think this is done really cool as well. I think it's fun. And it shows, I like how it shows what I'd always had before was either bad Pinotage or elegant Pinotage.
Okay.
And this is more of a new world, middle of the road, where it's kind of a fun Pinotage.
Yeah, it's a different take on it for sure.
Let's see. And like I said, poorly grown, has tar-like flavors. They're really unpleasant. And then I talked about the national grape and how many of them are grown. So let's go to the next slide.
So here's the thing with the tar though.
Mhm.
For me, like, I don't know what tar tastes like.
Well, have you ever been by a place getting their roof retarred?
Well, yes. I mean, I know what it smells like.
Re-tarred.
Yes. Right. No,
Yeah.
yes, I know what it smells like, but
Right. Well, and smell is most of your sense of
true,
taste.
but I always like wines sometimes trick you.
Mm.
What you smell is not what you taste, especially in the old world, but I guess this is new world, so.
Mhm.
All right,
World styling.
you would
All
like
right.
for me to advance?
Please. All right, so this grape, we're dealing with a Pinot Noir, relative, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't have the thickest of skins, but it has an incredibly powerful amount of chemicals in the skin and in the peripheral zone. But it retains, like Pinot Noir, the intermediate zone, a good amount of acidity. You've really got to give it time on the vine. It does not ripen quickly.
Okay,
Pinot Noir, late ripening. If you go to, in Germany, it's literally called Spätburgunder, late ripening, right? You're welcome, Jerry. And don't correct my pronunciation.
Jawohl.
Sherry's like, actually, it means.
That's right. But in France, it's named the black pine cone. So it takes a while, but South Africa has a great ability to give it that time. But they really, because they've got some high heat, they wanted to get higher productivity, which is the reason for cloning it and trying to crossbreed it. So you ended up with this grape that ended up with more intensity in the skin, but not more tannin. It has pretty much the same amount of tannin as a Pinot Noir. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Some interesting stuff, I think. All right, next one, please. So where in the world are we? We are way down here at the northern part of the southern growing latitude. South Africa in general, we're in the Western Cape. And this will be from a combination, basically, of Stellenbosch and Swartland. Parle is possible, but generally it's going to be this guy.
Okay.
And we get here. So see this, they actually give it coastal region.
Mhm.
This would be what you would call the Western Coast,
Okay.
with the Western Cape rather.
Mhm.
And if I know it's hard to see in here. This is the only one listed with Pinotage growing.
Okay.
So you have all these other guys over here,
Mhm.
but the only one with Pinotage is here.
That coastal
So,
region.
yeah, so this is where, so they're getting it from that region, but it hops through a couple of different viticultural areas. So it gets called South African.
Okay.
And they haven't created a larger designation called Western Cape, which I think they probably should, but hey, what do I have to say? So,
But these aren't designated viticultural areas, coastal region, Brook River Valley, those aren't.
those are, some of these are not.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah,
Right.
it's an interesting comment. Like here are the actual ones.
Oh, okay.
You see,
All right.
this one called Worcester. I was born in Worcester, Mass. But these are the real one, the ones you see most often. But this one is kind of an effective one. All right, so South Africa the oldest soil on Earth. So of the wine growing regions in the world, this is the first area that had the waters recede
Huh,
and was uncovered. So it's the oldest soil on Earth for them to
Wow.
grow in. An intriguing combination down here of old world and new world. You end up being able to get new world ripeness on the grapes because you get plenty of warmth,
sure.
but they tend to have kind of an old world vinification. So the winemaking tends to lean old world traditionally,
Okay,
but that's changing
okay.
and it's becoming a mix, obviously,
Mhm.
right?
Right,
So
right.
yeah, case in point tonight, right? This is a new world reinterpretation of what can be done with Pinotage. So, see, they kind of had an evolution. It was like an old world production in the history of South Africa, and then it became cheap production. And now it's moving into this mix of high-end production, still some inexpensive stuff, but you've got guys in the higher end where they're really working with the wine and how they want to make it more. It's kind of splitting into new world and old world with depending on their
Oh,
preferences.
okay.
And sometimes they're doing some of both.
Mhm.
This winemaker makes one of each,
Ah,
which we'll talk about kind of a little bit later on. So like one example we have in the store of Beaumont, if you go, the Beaumont production of wines is more old world.
I was seeing if Monty lifted his head at all.
Oh, right.
He has no idea his name is actually Beaumont.
No, we always call him
Yeah.
Monty, but his name is technically Beaumont. And we have the wine in the store to
Yeah.
only for the dog. No, not because it's really delicious wine. It is really.
The wine is only for the dog?
I was joking that I
Okay.
kept the wine in the store because of the
Oh,
dog.
okay.
So, and to go along with this, I was talking to the winemaker for Boshendal last week. She was in our store, a South African
Mhm.
winery. And I asked her about the new world, old world thing that I'd been noticing. And I felt like I kind of saw for a minute, like, oh my gosh, Gainesville does have some people who know something about wine. I felt gratified. Yeah, she came all the way from South Africa and she was in Gainesville,
Yeah,
right? That's
yeah.
amazing. I mean, it wasn't her only stop, obviously. Lovely lady. I really enjoyed talking to her. But I asked her, like, one good example of what's going on with this old world, new world split in South Africa is Syrah, right? The #2 red grape in South Africa is listed as Syrah and Shiraz, depending on the winemaker.
Huh,
And sometimes within the same winemaker, they'll have a Syrah and a Shiraz.
depending on whether they did it old world style or new world.
Yep.
It's interesting.
Right.
Hmm.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Made my inner wine geek happy.
Whenever you say Shiraz, I hear it in an Aussie accent in my head.
Shiraz.
Yeah. You would like for me to advance?
Yes, but by the way, look at this place.
No, it's gorgeous.
Yeah,
As
I'd
usual.
like to. Yeah, right there. If there are wine grapes there, I'd
Yeah.
want to vacation. Except for Jumian. And not that I love the Jumian wine, but it's a desert. Like,
Okay.
you know, it's just not gonna be fun. I mean, maybe a day trip.
Sure.
Get me back out.
The heat is not Jeff's friend.
No, nor all the sun.
Yeah.
All
Right.
right, yeah. All right, cooled by Walker Bay. So they have maritime cooling to get in there and help moderate what's going on. I mean, we are talking about Africa here, and it is the northern part of, I mean, they get plenty of cool temperature down there because they're surrounded by the really cool ocean down there between the bay and the Atlantic. And it is at the southern tip of Africa, but it's still at the northern, therefore the warmest latitude
Mhm.
of wine growing areas in the southern hemisphere, right? But so there's a lot of warmth, but the ocean really saves the day.
So what surprises me about this is how fertile the soil looks.
Mm,
I would not expect to grow wine grapes there.
they actually grow orchards and all kinds of things there. It's fertile enough, but not too fertile.
It's not too fertile.
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, there's a ton of limestone going on in here. I mean, this
Okay.
was covered by the ocean for millions of years.
Sure.
So
I mean, so
it's
were
not
we,
all
you
that.
know.
It's not like a black, rich, fertile soil. It
Okay.
really is.
Okay.
Like you can see, like on those hills, and those aren't trees. That's all
Well,
like
right,
chaparral and
Right.
stuff.
That's true.
Next one, please. Mhm. So just So this is within South Africa. There's one little sub-region that looked amazing.
So whenever I see things like this, I think they must not be as buggy as we are.
I don't think they are at all. Not in that part of Africa.
Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, and once
Well,
again,
and to grow the grapes,
because
too.
wine growing regions tend
Yeah.
to be low humidity.
Mhm.
Low humidity is almost just low bugs.
Right.
So there's another reason.
If I could not have palmetto bugs chase me down the street while I'm walking the dog, that would be great.
Okay. So let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
All right, so here we are, Barista Winery, a decidedly modern take on a classic, a classic heritage grape from South Africa. Sourcing from Stellenbosch in Swartland, which I already told you guys that. I showed you that on the Western Cape. The winemaker is Bertus Faurie, excuse me, Bertus Faurie. He's called the gentle giant of winemaking down there.
Right. So what you said was decidedly, and here it says deliberately, which is what you've referred
Oh, yeah.
a lot to me, that the winemaker chose.
It is deliberately.
right.
Yeah. My brain twisted it. It is a deliberately, and we're going to talk about
Well,
that.
I didn't know if you had said, if you had decided to say decidedly, but I didn't want to draw your attention to that because you said it to me a couple of times.
Right.
What you're tasting is deliberate. What you're going to taste is deliberate, although you
right.
didn't tell me what I was going to taste.
Right. No,
Because-
I wanted to keep some.
Right. And because I wasn't here last week, I didn't know what was coming. So.
All right. So here's something, I've got it later on the list, but it's worth talking about even as we go in.
Okay.
It's a deliberate manipulation of how the wine can taste by the winemaker. So, we go through a lot of these where they say, I want to, like, especially the French, right? I crush, I let nature take its course, and I present to you what I've grown in the vineyards. I want the expression of the vineyard in your glass, right? Which is fine, that's great, but it's not the only way it has to be. Now, many times a manipulated wine is done for economic purposes and therefore not for the betterment of what you're going to taste, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. So this guy is a great, what I would call, when I pull out the exceptions to the rule, this is a manipulated wine, but not in any way that's not true to form with making good wine. So they're not putting in additives or anything like that. He has put together a specific regimen of vinification to create this flavor. So you have the grapes coming in, they're grown the way he wants, but the final result is by deliberate choice in steps. So this is a manipulation of choice and how he wants the wine to, to taste in the end, rather than it is not just an expression of, I grew it this way, crush, go, here's what the vintage, here's what it gave to you. This is a manipulation in that it is a deliberate choice that he put in there with barrel selection, time, and temperature, and yeast chosen to create this specific flavor.
So you said that this winemaker has one that is more of a traditional
Yes.
Pinotage, and then this more modern take on it.
Right.
Is it all the same grapes and then they split them off and say, we're gonna do this with these, and we're gonna do this with these, or are they different, like, plots of wood?
I couldn't see for certain when I was looking through there, but I do believe they're different. I believe they're entirely different.
So they're starting off that they are going to taste different from the beginning.
Right.
It's not that, well, they started the same and what we did to them changed.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, the other ones I believe are from further inland and a little higher elevation.
Okay.
And I feel certain I'm right about it. So,
Okay.
So, will you go to the next slide?
Yes.
So here he is. All right. So Bertus works on multiple wine projects, throughout South Africa, but this is his project.
Okay.
Right. So he works at other wineries. And actually, from what I couldn't see a direct winery for this. I believe he's venting this at someone else's facility.
Okay.
But it is his specific project.
Okay.
Right. But he is the winemaker for multiple, and he's really in high regard, a great winemaker. Let's see, he has degrees in microbiology, chemistry, and enology. He began his career in the medical field and then found his real love here.
Wow.
So he designed this as his quote, coffee style Pinotage.
Mhm.
And he purposefully created it, like I said, with yeast, barrel selection, and temperature for fermentation to create and bring out this coffee flavor. But it is all naturally created.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. There's not any like coffee bean influence or anything, you know. Well, it's in barrels that used to hold coffee beans, you know.
It's a good point, yeah. And those things exist.
Right.
Yeah. So one of his quotes is, just because you can drink it every day doesn't make it ordinary. Yeah. So, and he created the
good
style.
quote.
There's some other people that are really trying to embrace this coffee
Mhm.
style. By the way, his nickname is Starbucks. Like the people in South Africa call him that.
Well, if he invented the style, that makes
He
sense.
did. He
yeah.
invented the style. He created it and made it repeatable. He made it. He made this. He wanted this and he thought it would be popular, and it has been incredibly popular throughout the world. So, if you're intrigued by his work, his what I would call like the big brother wine on this, you know, which is done in more the classic style, little old world. Obviously, it's that new world meets old world because of the ripeness of the grapes, but a more intensity and finesse is the other one.
Okay.
It's called his Black series,
Mhm.
and it happens to be in the store.
But it's not a more intense version of this. It
is
is a
not.
different,
It is
it's
a
more
different-
traditional Pinotage.
It is.
Okay.
It is a more different Pinotage. It is much more finessed. It has its own power. It's really good. So, but anyway, so that's the spiel. Let's go back and let everyone have their say about what they're thinking. Love, hate,
Okay, before we
go to
rate
the
them.
next thing's gonna be the ratings. It had no ratings to skew anyone's thoughts, so you guys get to go blind on this one,
Mhm.
right? But we'll cover general concepts. So, all right, so you guys have heard the whole spiel, where it comes from, why it is. What do you guys think?
The hogs say very drinkable.
Mm-hmm.
The Montrals love this one. And
Loving that.
remember, you guys can take the mic too, if you'd like to take the mic.
Yep, any way you want to do it.
We did a mole enchiladas. I really liked, not loved the one, but it did great with the mole. I think like the actual like spice, not like spicy spice, like the heat of the mole really brought out the fruitiness of the wine, which I think it needed, because I think by itself it's a little too, again, it's a little bit too like dry rub barbecue in your face, which I still liked, but the food really brought out, I think, the deeper qualities of this wine.
Yeah, I also think as it sat and as Chris has made me do this, it's also much more like brambly and a little bit more juicy now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. So,
I can pull some of the chat too. And then if anybody wants to hop in on the mic, I'll stop reading the chat. So the ciders, it was very unique and fun to drink. Rachel doesn't usually like smoked alcohol, but really liked this one.
oh, that's nice.
All right.
Excellent.
And then the whole crew of Laura, John, Linda, Brett, okay. We were pleasantly surprised, paired very well with lentil stew.
Oh, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see.
Yeah, and then the Mason cups, amazingly dense and heavy for being related to Pinot Noir.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely, and they like it. Mhm.
Awesome. Well, hey,
Yeah.
so far so good. I thought I was going to get a couple of people saying absolutely not. What have you done, sir?
Yeah,
I just think it's, and I like the description of it being fun. It is a very powerfully unique style chosen for a reason. It's like love it or hate it, here it is, right?
yeah, and I like it, and I like that it tastes like no wine I've ever had. It's not quite when I had my very first sparkling red, where I kept it it was so hard
Right.
to pair what I was looking at with what I was tasting, and it took me a while to really get my head around it.
Mhm.
But this one, it's so different. I like it. I think I would like it more with
Oh,
mole
yeah,
or,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
something with, that would pairing with it to balance the flavors a little bit.
Mhm.
But yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised as well, because I was not, I know that you said it was gonna be polarizing, and I was like, okay, this is the one that I'm gonna be like, ooh, no.
We
Yeah.
first opened it, we kind of thought, what the hey? What do we got here? Another winner, right? And then after about 5 or 10 minutes, man, it just changed. It's just been velvety ever since.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad. I love to hear this because I just think I think it's unique
Mhm.
and good, right?
Mhm.
It's not just unique for unique's sake.
right,
It's unique in a way that is totally enjoyable.
yes.
right.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
I can totally get behind that. It doesn't have, so I think it's a lot of fun. And that's why I wanted to make it a wine. I thought, you know what, let's do that wine.
Yeah,
That wine is crazy. I want everyone to try it. So. All right. So let's jump back over. We'll look at the ratings,
okay.
the options.
Sorry, there was so much black. I wasn't sure if that was it,
Mm.
because there's so much black space at first when it was so small, I wasn't
Right.
sure. You would like for me to advance?
Yes, please.
All right.
All right, so wine scores. So, and we always talk about how the industry tends to skew toward 90 if it's a well-made wine. I think to me, the way I like to go through it is first step, was it properly vinted? Is there a flaw in the wine, or the wine bottle itself, was it compromised, right? So that would be the very first start. Second thing, did I enjoy it? Third, was it good for the grape? Fourth, was it good for the area? Fifth, was it good for the price? Factoring all those kind of, it's a mishmash, and some of it can even be what's more important to you in there, all right? But too often people rely on 90+ points to say they liked the wine. Though it's so that effectively, if you like the wine, the industry's like, oh, 90. And I think if you like the wine, I think it should be 85. But we're on here, we're dealing with that's the reality of the world. So taking that into account, is it a very good wine, a good wine, or an outstanding wine? Did it really grab your attention?
Yeah, but we've had some 88s in the WOW group that we
Mhm.
have really liked,
Right.
but the wine industry has said 88. So I always think, okay,
Yeah, it's frustrating that in the wine industry effectively and in the retail industry
Mhm.
effectively, if you have a wine that's listed as an 88, people are going to shy away from it. Oh, it's just okay.
Hmm.
They think it's just okay.
I
I'm
mean,
like, they consider an 88 to be like a 78.
I think you should also take your price point into account too, when
Yeah.
you're.
I agree.
Okay, let me
All right, let's see what we have coming in.
grab the chat. And let's say we have an 88 from Chris.
Mhm.
The Hogsets 90 to 91.
Mhm.
All things considered. Oh, see, the Montreal said price also. It's just
Right.
one of the things I said, expression of grape, etc. Cheryl 90, Chris 93.
Nice.
Oh, wow, that's kind of a big split between the two of them. Yeah. In the wine industry.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, every point above
So-
90's, precious.
Mhm. Let's see, Laura, John, and Linda like it as much, if not more, than any other Pinotage I've had. Wow. Oh,
Nice.
that's what Laura said. And so that's a 90 from the three of them, and then an 89 from Brenda.
Right.
And then 87 to 89 would buy again, the
Right.
Mason Cup set.
So a solid,
Yeah.
very good wine,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's good wine. And would I bring that to a barbecue with friends? Yeah, jump on it,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, I would do 89, 90.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Mhm.
I would call it 89, 90 as well,
Mhm.
because of the effective use in the market,
Mhm.
where I'm like, I want people to get that this is
Right.
a wine, like, yeah, jump on this guy and try it out. It's really good.
So for me, like, I'm glad that we had it because I wanted to taste it, but it isn't something that I would just sit around drinking without food.
Mhm.
But I think it'd be I'd like, because we always have it without food. I'd like to try it with food because I especially with mole specifically, because I'm just picturing in my head what that tastes like and what this tastes
Yeah,
like.
right.
and
But
yeah,
you know what I want?
But
Blue cheese bacon cheeseburger.
oh, Yeah, you wouldn't
Yes.
drink everything with that. Well, that's actually not true. You wouldn't put a white at all with it. So
No.
you would just always choose to have the blue cheese bacon cheeseburger
Yes.
for your meals.
One of my favorite
Right.
things in the
Yeah.
world, and it would be amazing with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like truffle fries on the side.
Mhm.
with this- Oh, yeah.
They're saying blue cheese and bacon jam would be great with
Oh,
this.
yeah, that would be
Mhm.
outstanding.
Yep.
I agree. All right,
All
let's go
right.
to the next one. We'll thank our sources.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Winefolly.com, always 750.com, Wikipedia, wine.com, and baristawine.co.za. So thank you very much for all the help with the production this week. So next week, last week we were in Chile.
Mhm.
This week we were in South Africa, Southern Hemisphere,
Okay.
where it's winter, where I wish I was right now.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people all across the country wish that.
So we're going to stay in the Southern Hemisphere.
Okay, we're going to Australia.
We're going to Australia. Very good. All right. Next week, we're going to Australia for a 94 point
Oh, wow. Okay.
Aussie Delight.
Wait. It's not next week.
Uh,
It's in 2 weeks.
It's in 2 weeks.
It's in 2 weeks.
Because we have,
We
do
have
the
to
thing.
skip next week.
Oh. that's right.
Remember?
Oh, yeah. All right. I forgot.
We
Oh,
have to
so-
skip next week, but the next time we have
Okay,
the wine of the week and we have our Tuesday
that's right.
tasting.
We have to be out of town.
Yes,
So
it will be on the 23rd.
Okay.
And this is what it'll be.
on the 23rd
Okay.
of August, we will have everyone's favorite Chardonnay.
Really.
Before it is a Chardonnay, the Mac Forbes Chardonnay, but before you guys groan and gasp, this one will remind you
Okay.
of one of your favorite white wine growing regions that we've had.
Okay. What's
And
my
I'm not going
favorite?
to tell you more,
Okay.
but you all liked it and you all said you liked it and you all said you would buy it again. It will remind you of that area.
Okay.
You're going to like this one. So it's just like, take a moment.
Everything you've listed in the food pairings, I like.
Right? Take a moment, everything, you're like, it's Chardonnay, but I'm going to like it. It's a great one. All right.
Okay. All
So
right.
we can sell it maybe 2 weeks in a row because we've got plenty of it and you guys, it give you time to go grab your bottle. So
Amazing Cup said, I think that's in reaction to you saying one of my favorite wine growing regions, Florida.
yeah, yeah. Right.
Oh, wait, hold on.
That's it.
Chardonnay is good, actually. Chris said
Right.
that, not Robin.
Exactly.
Robin wanted to clarify that. was
Chardonnay-
not her telling me.
Chardonnay gets so much trouble. Oh my gosh. You know what? Chardonnay's good. And you guys,
Okay,
You'll
so
be-
yes. Robin said that they've had 2 good Chardonnays recently, and so now Chris insists that it's good.
okay, were they both from Chablis?
No,
No?
no.
No, one of them was from California.
Surprisingly.
It was, yeah, if give me a little bit, I'll go find the wine. It was but it was an unoaked Chardonnay. It was definitely like more of a French style. It was an incredible,
Yeah.
beautiful wine.
Mhm.
The one we had earlier today was I don't know, South American, or South Africa. I don't know. It was a natural wine, but it was technically a Chardonnay, but it was very nice and crisp. Anyway, Chardonnay, it's good, it's versatile.
Chris is
I
bringing
will-
back Chardonnay,
I will,
so-
Jeff, I will die with you on this hill.
Okay.
I like
Sure.
Chardonnay. I like a good non-oaked Chardonnay.
Yeah, me
Wow.
too. I don't know, too. And I like it when it's paired with things.
Right.
Like that's how Jeff has convinced me to have Chardonnay before, is pairing it well.
Wow.
So,
You remember when we had Chablis? And you said, please stop calling it Chardonnay and just call it Chablis and that way I can like it.
no.
You
I
said
don't
that.
remember I
You
did.
said that. Do you guys remember her saying that? So, yeah, right, Dave.
Okay,
And
whatever.
it was a
Dave.
great line. It was an outstanding line. So let me just say, you didn't be happy.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
okay, I trust that. Yeah, I do trust that whenever Jeff tells me I'm gonna like something normally, I mean, it's very rare that you don't know what I would like or dislike, so. Mhm.
All right, so that is that. I'm so glad you guys like this wine. I mean, I think, overall, and it's what I expected too, is, it's a casual drinker, but it's so character driven.
Mhm.
It's a step up, right?
Mhm.
On your casual grab barbecue wine kind of thing. But for burgers and barbecue and, all kinds of interesting options, this is a fun wine not to forget about.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right, thank you very much, everybody. Toast to you. Thanks for coming.
Cheers, everyone.